Hello everyone and welcome to our final episode of NetWORK Inspire. I'm Emily May and I've been your host throughout this exciting content series with Burberry and Genji. And on today's episode, we are going to highlight some champions in the space and how they are changing the landscape. We're also going to be talking about some core issues in gaming and content spaces. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce my guest today. Hello!
Hey.
Hi. Hello, hello. Could you tell the audience a little bit about yourselves?
My name is Gloria, but I go by the name of Plu online. I'm a Twitch streamer, YouTuber, TikToker. I'm like exclusively working on Valorant right
Wow.
because I'm just like really working hard to rank up.
What rank?
I'm Immortal 3 right now.
Wow. I am like dirt 4. Yeah, I'm like dirt 4. Yeah, that is very difficult. That's crazy. How many hours would you say that you spent doing Valorant?
Probably like 2,000 or 3,000 hours.
2 or 3?
1,000 hours.
Wow.
She said 1,000.
Yeah. 2,000 or 3,000.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think somewhere around there.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Very cool. I'm Christina Amaya, Chris for short. I am president and co-founder of Latinx in Gaming, a nonprofit dedicated to helping Latinos finding jobs in the gaming industry. And I am director of festivals for DreamHack.
And hi, I'm Jeffrey Williams, VP of D&I at Burberry, and also the co-founder of a nonprofit called Rocking Your Teens that works with young kids to help them think about their mental well-being, their career aspirations, and also how they share their emotions and feelings with the adults around them. And at Burberry, I kind of work to design the strategy for our D&I approach and kind of make sure that we bring it together in the sense of our consumers, our employees, and how we show up in the market space.
Hey, so nice to meet all of you.
Great to be here.
Yeah.
Okay, so starting with Plu, could you share a little bit about yourself and the path you took to get here?
I think I started playing games when I was like 7 on the PC.
Oh, wow.
I always knew that it was like one of my passions, but I had no idea how to like make it an actual career. But once I like started seeing Twitch pop off when I was like 12 or 13, I was like, wow, this is what I'm gonna do. Like, I'm gonna make it. And then now I'm a Twitch streamer.
Nice. What was your first game?
I played like Battle Quest, Adventure Quest, and then I played like RuneScape and stuff.
RuneScape.
Yeah.
Similar to you, I started out not thinking this was an actual career available to me. I studied political science, and then I realized you can't actually work in gaming. And so I started building a career for myself, and now here I am.
And I guess I've taken a different route to these guys. So started my career in the entertainment industry and then kind of had a little bit of a switch and ended up in the D&I space. I think the two are connected to people and kind of helping people to be their best versions of themselves. So I think that's how I've kind of ended up sitting in the seat I'm sitting in right now as well.
I mean, we're all for everybody being the best version of themselves. So I'm so excited to have you guys. So today's episode is going to be focused on self-care. And we are going to start off with a quick icebreaker of would you rather. So I'm going to read off some questions and then you're going to either raise your right hand or your left hand. Yeah, right. Right to left. Yeah, you're gonna raise you're gonna raise your right hand or your left hand, depending on which answer you choose. So, would you rather no Netflix or no YouTube? No Netflix or no YouTube?
Oh,
YouTube.
okay.
We have a divide. We have a split.
YouTube, it's like Google. I can't live without Google. I can't live without YouTube. I get so much of my information from YouTube. I would rather get rid of social media than get rid of YouTube.
Wow, that's a hot
big
take.
take.
I thought everyone went.
Because I grew up on YouTube.
Okay,
so.
that makes sense. All right, no Instagram or no Twitter?
No Instagram or no Twitter.
Yeah.
I think no Twitter.
No Twitter.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because I like looking at people's photos and then
that's
obviously
true.
it's kind of gone into space now where people are creating videos and stuff and I kind of enjoy that.
That's true.
Twitter
They
is
have
a
the
bit-
Reels now.
Twitter's a bit toxic sometimes, so. Sorry.
That is extremely true. Oh, have telekinesis or telepathy?
What's the difference?
Telekinesis is the ability to move things with your mind, and then telepathy is the ability to read minds.
So I used to think I wanted to be able to read minds, but then I I guess as humans, we have so many
There's
thoughts.
just so much.
It's just too much thoughts. So I think I'd want to have telekinesis and move
Right?
things with my
Yeah,
mind.
me too. I want to sit on the couch and just like have snacks come to me.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Oh, you want to read minds?
Yeah.
Why?
So I can go to Vegas and play poker.
Wait, that might have been the better answer.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe she's right. Maybe I don't want
Commercialize
snacks
the
to flip to
idea.
me.
Then you can hire people to bring the snacks to you.
Yeah.
You're onto something there.
She's
Yeah.
hacked the code. This is where it's at. Vacation in the mountains or on the beach?
Beach.
Mountains?
I don't like the sand.
I actually don't like the sun. I don't tan, I just burn. I just turn into a strawberry and then I peel. So I feel that.
Yeah.
Would you rather have 20 good friends or one best friend?
20 good friends.
20 good friends. Oh, we keep disagreeing.
Oh my gosh, I'm also over here. Why 20 good friends? I'm curious.
To have a party, you need a lot of people. I think
Yeah.
just you and one person.
More room for activities,
more
more
to-
people.
Yeah,
More
I think we're
people.
on the side of like, what are parties? I'm like, I'm at home. I'm good.
Yeah.
We're just at home, right?
Get it?
Our next segment is going to be story time, staying positive. I have note cards right here. Ooh. And if you could just take the note card on top and then pass it down. We're going to ask some questions that has a story time on it. So if you can read the question.
Can you tell us about the piece of work you felt best about? What led to that confidence? The thing that I'm most proud of is probably like I got like an award at the Game Awards for like the most up and coming Valorant streamer. I was like stunned. I couldn't even say anything. I was so shocked that I even won that. So I think that would probably be like the thing that I'm most confident about or proud of.
I go through like 3 games and I'm like, everything hurts, everything's spinning. So that's definitely a feat that I could not. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell us about a time you faced imposter syndrome and overcame it? What advice do you have for others? I applied for a job that I thought was above what I think I thought was capable of doing. And I got it. So I actually just started as a director.
Done.
Tell
Yay.
us about this.
So I am now the director of festivals for DreamHack.
Wow.
Yeah. And my advice, I guess, is take, the worst people can say is no. So go ahead and put yourself out there.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So
Yeah.
I love that.
Cool. And then my one is, can you tell us about the scariest moment of your career? How did you decompress after? So I think the scariest moment of my career was actually making the decision to make a change. So as I said earlier on, I started my career in the music industry and I was managing a band and effectively had a major falling out with some folks and decided that I'd had enough. And that's what I'd been doing for a number of years. I kind of worked all the way up through university and college and kind of really had been applying myself to be in that space. And the day I decided to walk away, I kind of was losing a part of my identity because it was so wrapped up in being that person that could, go to different concerts or even just be in that space. It was really cool. So it was a bit of a hard one because it was that moment of what do I do next? I had no idea. And I had to really kind of take a step back from everything, have a bit of a break, go on a holiday and sit on the beach and reflect on what I was going to do next. And then I came back with I was going to transition and I was going to do something slightly different and kind of start again and build another career, which is never easy, but it was a hard decision to make. And I guess, to the question, how did I decompress afterwards? I had a holiday.
I feel like for people who are watching and they might be scared to go out of their comfort zone and try something new, like is there something that you guys would want to say to them?
I think the idea of trying new things is life.
Yeah.
The journey of life is really twisty. You kind of have in your mind, I'm going to end up here by this age or by this moment. And as you start to kind of go on that trajectory, it doesn't play out that way. So I think anyone watching this or reflecting on where they want to end up, just know that you have one start, but where you may finish might be somewhere completely different. One, because the roles that we all do didn't exist how many years ago. So the world of work keeps evolving. And I think there's just an opportunity for you to kind of sit in that center of actually, as long as you're happy, just keep moving forward. And I think that's probably the more important part, your happiness, rather than your job title or how much money you're making, because all those things kind of come. But the most important piece is, are you feeling joy in what you're doing?
Yeah. I think I read somewhere that they said that if you enjoy your job, you never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
And I really feel that. Yeah. Do you guys have any advice for people who might be like scared to try to do something new? Because I know like even for streaming, right, there's a lot of people who are scared to make the leap to become a full-time streamer.
Yeah,
right?
I think it is really scary going into like content creating full time, because it's like it's just so lucrative, and you don't know like how much money you're gonna make, and if you make this much this month, it doesn't always equate to the whole year. But I think like the scariest part is probably just starting, like actually taking the first step is probably the hardest. Yeah, I mean, it took me like a long time. I started when I was like 16, and I didn't like actually like make it until I was like 21.
Perseverance.
Yeah.
That is the
Dedication.
yeah.
Dedication, consistency, perseverance, and to your point, just start, get your foot out there.
Just start. Yeah. So for the next segment, it's actually Inspire Us Authentic Inspiration. So tell us about a woman who is bringing positivity into the industry and what you think that others can learn from her.
I watched, like, as I said before, I watched a lot of YouTube, and my like biggest inspiration was probably like Jenna Marbles.
She was so funny.
Yeah, she was just like always herself, always talking about or making jokes about like real issues like going on at the time, and like whatever was going on with her life. That just like, I feel like she's probably been an inspiration to like thousands of women now,
Honestly, I feel like all the women that are working really hard to be here, whether it be on your side, whether it be on behind the scenes, I think it's admirable. It's a pretty male-dominated industry. So to take the time and effort to be a part of this is admirable. In terms of people I specifically followed, I think are great. Anna Prosser, I think, is incredible. I love Erin Ashley Simon, Erin, who we just mentioned. And there's a ton of other great people out there.
So I think women who have given me inspiration would be definitely my grandmothers. I think they did a very difficult journey from the Caribbean to the UK during a period called the Windrush, where a lot of people moved from the Caribbean to the UK. And they had to kind of go through some really hard times, but they did that to enable our family and myself to have a better education, to have access to greater healthcare, and to really have opportunities that I guess they wouldn't have had if they'd stayed on their island. So definitely rooting and celebrating them every time I sit in these spaces.
Immigrant grandmothers are strong. They are scary. They have the slipper. We are terrified of them. All that good stuff.
Oh, they didn't do that. They didn't do that. They didn't have any slippers. They
no
were really,
slippers?
No, they were good with words and that kind of, and also the look.
That almost hurts. That hurts for a long time.
That look of, I'm really disappointed in you. I can't believe you did that. And then you kind of sitting there feeling like, oh man, I need to step up my game. So yeah.
Yes, slipper hurts for a couple seconds. The words hurt for your entire life.
Yeah.
Who do you think is the most authentic online about the struggles that they face? And how has that helped elevate the community?
So I would say, thinking about people that speak up about, I guess, their mental health and how they're feeling and how they're being impacted by what people are saying. I'd say Lizzo does a really good job of speaking up, of challenging, kind of really being, a role model for body positivity. So I think I'd kind of say Lizzo.
Oh, I love her.
Yeah.
I think like one instance that I do remember was like when a lot of creators on Twitter were just owning and like being honest about like their experiences with like men and stuff in the industry. That was being like very vulnerable and like real. I would say like almost like all the girls in like the Twitch community and stuff are like pretty real and honest. You go on stream like every single day. It's hard not to be honest. It's hard not to be yourself, because how can you act for like 6 to 8 hours a day? I mean, I guess there's actors and actresses.
I mean, I guess there are people who are acting. There's some tea. But I agree with you. It's really hard being in a public position, right? Where you want to say things, and sometimes it's not easy to speak up, right?
Yeah.
It's not always easy to speak up. So
I guess it's daunting to speak up, isn't it? Because it's that piece of if I speak my mind and someone disagrees with me, does that end my career? Does that,
Yep.
will people actually understand and be able to relate to, you know, the characters that I've written, or, you know, how I'm trying to express myself, and how do I do that in a medium that gets across my passion for something or my convictions without alienating people? And I think that's always the challenge with the kind of online space is, you know, us having this conversation, I can say things to people and you're going to get it. You can see it in my body language, you can feel it in my energy. But I think when you're then online, it's just characters.
I know.
It's very open for
People
interpretation.
are keyboard warriors
Yeah.
too. Like people are way meaner online than they would be in person.
I think
like,
some people
for
don't think
sure.
about the impact of their words to a human. It's just like, oh, they're another entity in this space.
Yeah.
So I can say whatever I want because they'll understand that I'm only joking, or that this is just for giggles or for points or whatever. They don't really think of the kind of person at the other end that they've just kind of been debating with or disrespecting, and how that's going to really challenge their mental psyche.
People forget that on the other side of the screen are other people.
yeah.
You know.
It's important to remember that it is somebody's career, right? So every time you speak out against crunch, against, you know, industry standards, against certain things that we face within gaming, it is a risk, and it is a risk to your career. So people who do that, I think, are pretty brave.
I'm sure there's been times where, like, you know, people were mean to you online, or you got a comment that you didn't like during stream, and then, like, do you ever feel like you're scared to retaliate, or do you just kind of let them have it?
Usually, I would like just call them out, like jokingly, and be like, okay.
Don't be like that, right?
Yeah, like what's going on here, you know? Or I just ban them, but like
Shadow Realm.
yeah. I don't
gone.
know, like I think it just happens so often that like sometimes you're just like numb to those comments, you know? But like that shouldn't be the case. And like when someone does get offended by comments online, like you shouldn't think it's their fault for being offended. It's the offender's fault, you know?
The offender's fault.
So I feel like that's something that I'm trying to work on too. It's just like, it's not just something that you can brush away. It is getting better, I think, a little bit.
Just a little bit better.
Yeah.
A little.
With people like us speaking up, you know, we gotta.
I guess it comes down to the question of, when you do challenge that person, are they actually going to change? Are they going to be a better person for doing it? And then I guess that's where you start to weigh up how you show up in those moments. And I think it's also that question of whether you're going to ask somebody why, or, you know, explain it to me, slow it, you know, break it down like I'm a child. Explain to me why you're saying that. And a lot of time they don't have a proper answer when you kind of go that route. And I think that's always the work that you can do in these moments, is kind of sometimes just ask them why, ask them, you know, what do they think the impact of those words mean? Can you explain it to me again a bit more simply, because I don't get your joke? And that generally either moves them on, or they realize that what they've said is offensive and you know, not a good thing. So
Well, you know, I know we're having a lot of hot takes here, but our next segment is gonna get even tougher. It's called Tough Talk. I know, it's getting tougher. We're gonna talk about tough things now. Yeah, I know it's already been tough.
I thought we were already.
Yeah, we were already talking about tough things, but now it's getting even tougher.
Okay, cool.
Right. So I would actually like each person to raise their hand whenever someone's answering and you're like, I can relate to that, or I felt something like that. So it's just like a, me too kind of thing. So what are some little things that get you down in the industry, and how can others help lift you after you experience them?
Seeing people being disrespected and thinking, is anything ever going to change? And kind of sitting there. And I think to kind of get me through that, I have to step away sometimes and stay offline and go outside and listen to music and just have I think I like breaks. Have a break.
Take a holiday.
Take a holiday. Because I think it's always, it's hard to sometimes watch that and you just see it spiraling, and you know, something starts trending and you're like, oh gosh, this is never going to end. So I think that's something that I've seen, and it makes me have to pause.
I think something that gets me down is when people in positions of power or companies have the ability to change the discourse and have difficult conversations, and they instead back away.
Everyone's like,
Yeah, I agree, but I've never been in that. I've never I don't know any of those people, so. I think little things that like bother me every day, or not every day, but like occasionally. In Valorant, there's like 5 people on your team, or 4, excluding yourself. And if one person is being like misogynistic or like toxic, nobody else says anything except for you. And you're just like, you're not gonna say anything
You're
to
like,
this
I'm
guy?
here on my own fighting this battle.
Yeah, you're not gonna say anything to this
Yeah.
person. Like, I think that's like another part of the problem. Just
Yeah.
like not
saying
Not
saying
saying
anything.
Again, I think it goes back to the point though, some people don't feel like their voice is worth raising at that moment. But I
Yeah.
think collectively what we need to learn is that we all need to speak up, and we all need to challenge when we see something that's unjust or unfair, and call it out. Because again, people live in their bubbles, so sometimes people don't know that they've said something that is misogynistic or disrespectful. Sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. And how do we, educate them and create those moments? So yeah.
Yeah, I think like you said, sometimes people really just don't know. Like they just grew up in a space where that's what they're used to seeing, and that's what they've known all their lives. And before someone comes along and educates them, they really just don't know. So sometimes being the person to speak up and say these things and be like, that's wrong, and you explain why, they're like, wow. And maybe you just changed that person's life, Do you think mental health and wellness is talked about enough? Or how do you think we can create a more inclusive future?
It's talked about a lot more. I think
Yeah.
COVID and all of us having to work from home, work at home, has strengthened the conversation. I also think each generation that is growing up is discussing their well-being more. And I think it's a conversation of well-being and the kind of full spectrum of it. So not just the mental part, but the physical part and the diet and all those bits that kind of go into us being the full human that we are. And I think we're seeing more of those conversations more and more. And people are reflecting on, how can I be my best selves? How can I live my fullest life? And how can I be in a space where I'm able to manage all the multitude of things that are going on in society? So I think we're talking about it more, but I think there's still so much more work for us to do. And we have to get to that point of being comfortable with the fact that we'll all have a moment of, ill mental health, and that's okay. But it's like having a common cold. You'll be down and then you get back up and you carry on. And I think we need to have those conversations that enables everyone to kind of fully feel connected. And then once we get to that point, we'll be in a good place, but we're still on that journey.
I agree.
I think mental health and therapy and all of those pieces should be covered under healthcare in the United States.
I agree.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And I think it's really funny how people think of mental health as like, just get over it. Just stop being sad. Just stop being anxious. Just stop. And you're like, oh, wow, I'm cured. Oh my God. It just doesn't work that way. It's the same way. Like you said, how it's like when you have a cold, you go to the doctors and you get treated. How come when someone is sad or when someone is feeling all these different things, you're not like, go get treatment? You're just like, just stop.
But I think it's because we're told to suck it up, get on with it, be strong.
Yep.
Right.
And when you're constantly getting those messages, it means that you're not going to have those moments where you're going to say to someone, actually, I'm feeling a bit vulnerable, or I'm having a bit of a challenge here and I don't know what I'm going to do. You just kind of feel like, well, I have to be strong, I have to suck it up, I have to keep winning. And you just stay in that cycle. And that's, I think, part of the conversation that we need to change, that we're able to get people to say, actually, today is not a 10-day, it's a 4-day, and I need to, slow down a bit. And give people the space to do that.
How do you feel about mental health in the gaming industry?
I feel like it is a lot more talked about because people do make posts about it and they're like, oh yeah, me too, I felt this way too, and like just like seeing little like words of encouragement on Twitter and stuff. And I also think therapy should be covered by healthcare too. Like I think a big daunting issue about therapy is like people are like turned off by the cost.
Yeah.
And it's not like a dental office where they're like one in every neighborhood, It's like, where do you even find their
Finding
therapist?
a good therapist is actually kind of
Really
difficult.
hard.
Like,
Yeah.
where
Really
do you
hard.
like? You need to go get like something with your teeth done. You're like, okay, you Google and then you find it. But like when you want to find a good therapist for something, it's actually very difficult.
Yeah.
I think that process needs to be a lot easier. Like I don't know,
I
like
agree.
in LA, it is not easy. Like
No.
how is it?
In London?
Yeah, in London.
It's not easy either, but I think it's easier. There's lots of different platforms that have insights and information, people like, rating systems. But I think also people talk about who they're seeing a bit more, I would say, or at least in my friend circle.
Okay.
So then you're able to kind of get recommendations and build from there. But I think that's part of the conversation as well. It's like just normalizing the fact that, yes, I have a therapist, and yes, I have those conversations, and yes, it's good for my mental health, and yes, it's great to keep me working or keep me going, and I think that's important.
What do you think is some of the best support that you've given to yourself, and how do you think others can help themselves?
Getting a therapist was the best support I could have given to myself. Finding somebody that could help me unpack what I needed to do, what I could change, things I could do going forward. And then self-care through manicures, getting my hair done, stuff like that.
So I'd agree, definitely finding someone to speak to and having that opportunity. I think also realizing that I can only do what I can do. And, being ambitious and being like, I need to achieve everything, and realizing that's not always the case. And I think I mentioned it earlier on, just kind of realizing I needed to be happy with being myself and being where I am and doing what I'm doing, and not kind of looking outwards, but looking more inwards. And that's a journey, and that's hard, but I think it's something that's definitely, brought me to a good place. So, yeah.
Well, I've never tried therapy, but I'm definitely open to it. But I think the biggest part of my life that just melts all the stress away are my 2 dogs.
Oh.
Yeah, they're just, when I see them, I'm just like,
that's your therapy.
Yeah.
Maybe that's your therapy, little fluffy guys.
Animal therapy.
Yeah.
It is a thing.
What do you think is a self-care advice to anyone who's entering the space, either in your line of work or entering any kind of creative space? What do you think is a way that someone could take care of themselves?
I think mentally, just if you're ever comparing yourself to anybody else, just stop.
Yeah.
Stop it. Put the phone down. Just take a breath of fresh air outside and just stop. I think that could be really self-destructive, and I think that's something I struggled with a lot when I was in my teenage years. But I feel so much better now that I'm able to control those emotions and just realize that everything's fine, as long as you're happy and not comparing your journey with anyone else's.
Yeah, that's true. I think everyone's journey is different, the way that people get there. And I think sometimes people forget when they look on social media, because I think people forget that what you see on social media is everyone's perfected version of themselves, right? I'll be honest, I take 100 pictures and I'm like, this is the cutest one, and then we put that up there. But for someone who sees that, they're like, wow, that's what their life is like. But it's really not, and I think people forget that.
Work-life balance, when you have the ability to push back and establish boundaries for yourself, especially when you're younger and you're hungry for work and you're like, no, I can do it all. Give yourself weekends, take the evening and relax with your family or your partner or your dogs, and make time for yourself.
So I'd agree with that. When you're in the creative space, sometimes it becomes all-encompassing. So everyone you hang out with is doing the same thing as you. The conversations you have are still centered around work. So I think it's having a mixture of friends and people in your network that aren't doing the same things as you, so that you can kind of move out a little bit and have those moments too. Go and spend time with your family and friends. Go for a walk, go to the movies, or do something different. Because I think for me, throughout the years, I've kind of sometimes worked in spaces where we were very passionate about what we were doing, and we were doing it 24/7 and just stuck in the zone. And I think it's about breaking out of that.
Have you guys done anything new recently that you've tried, or something that you're like, wow, this is new and I've never done this before, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it? I'm just so curious. Y'all seem like
So I've attempted journaling unsuccessfully.
Oh.
I've attempted it. I have
attempted.
I bought a really nice book, nice leather book that sits beside the bed looking at me, and I've written in it a couple of times, but I need to get better at it, but it's there and it's a process that I'm working through. So I think that's the thing that I started that I haven't done before.
Okay.
My friend group is doing a lot of murder mystery parties.
Whoa.
So we have one tomorrow. It's gonna be fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it like those dinner party things?
Yeah.
I've heard of those.
How does that work?
You all are specific characters, and then one person killed somebody, and you have to figure out who.
Yeah. Interesting.
Board game night.
Kind of.
Board game night.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think I've been doing anything new, but
Is there something that you think you'd want to try?
I definitely want to try, like, you know when you go to a store and they have like those clay pots and you can paint on them?
Yes,
Aw.
the pottery places.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to try that. So that's on my list soon.
Wait, that's so cute. There's a lot of those places in LA where you can either make it yourself or you can just paint it yourself.
I
Yeah.
think I'll be up for painting it, making it.
Yeah, no, it won't be cute.
It's actually really hard when you just like it goes in a circle and you're like and then it turns out like this.
Whereas I actually did that a few months
Yeah.
ago as
Oh,
a
you
team
did?
building exercise.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Did it turn out like this?
it was like this lopsided thing, and then I had to glaze it, and they were like, oh, and I was like, I just want to throw it away, and I'm like, no, you have to finish it, you have to glaze it. What color do you want to glaze? And I was looking at it, going, that's awful, and that will never go with the aesthetic of my house.
It's okay.
Like-
Picasso is you know.
No. Let's not lie. Like that was not good. Like it's fine. I'm okay. I'm not a claymate. I'm not a potter.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being here today for our final episode of Network Inspire. I'm so excited. Do you have any last things you want to say to the people who are watching?
I would say enjoy your journey. Enjoy the journey that you're about to go on. Accept the advice that people give you, and don't worry so much about where you're going, but just enjoy the journey.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
clip that and keep that.
Yeah.
Stop and take a moment to appreciate where you are, because it will go really fast.
A good piece of advice would be to just invest in yourself. You know, at the end of the day, like, you're the one living in your body.
Yep.
You know, this is your life. You need to invest in yourself, and if you're not taking care of yourself, nobody else is going to take care of you better than yourself.
That's true.
So
Yay! So I just want to give a very last thank you to everyone at Burberry and Gen G who have been so kind to put this entire series together. We've done an entire series, guys. Wow, I know. So very, very exciting. And I hope you guys have enjoyed coming along this journey with us. And hopefully you've learned something. You're going to go out there and make a difference because it only takes one voice. It really only takes one small voice to start a big change. So thank you guys.